Welcome to The Explainer. So, Elon Musk's xAI just dropped some big news. They're open sourcing their big AI model, Grok 1. Now, on the surface, that sounds amazing, right? A huge gift to developers. But what does open really mean here? That's what we're going to dig into. Is this the real deal, or is it just some clever marketing? And this is where it all started. A post from Elon Musk himself on X. He says, look, Grok 1, what he calls our best model last year, is now open source. And then he throws in a little teaser. Grok 3 is coming in about 6 months. You can imagine this got the entire AI world talking, and for good reason. So let's talk about what everyone was thinking. The expectation was pretty straightforward, right? A powerful, top-of-the-line AI model was just given to the public, free for anyone to mess with, build on, you name it. And you gotta understand, in this crazy race for AI supremacy, a move like that, it's a massive deal. Yeah, but here's the thing. That phrase, open source, it has a very specific, very important meaning. And as the saying goes, the devil is always in the details. So we need to look a little closer at this, because when you do, you start to see that with Grok 1, the label and the reality, well, they don't quite line up. Okay, so what's the reality here? Well, it turns out xAI did release the model's weights. You can think of those as the AI's brain, the core of what makes it work. But, and this is a huge but, they didn't use a normal, standard open source license that everyone knows and trusts. Nope, they wrote their own. You see, when we talk about real open source, like the kind defined by the Open Source Initiative, it's all about freedom. It's a guarantee. You have the freedom to use the code for whatever you want, to change it however you want, and to share it with whoever you want. And crucially, that license can't just be yanked away from you later. And this is where it gets really interesting. Just look at this side by side. On one hand, you have a true open source license, like Apache 2.0. It's irrevocable, meaning it can't be taken back, and you can build a commercial product with it. Now look at Grok's license. xAI can revoke it whenever they want. It restricts commercial use. And get this, it even says you can't use Grok's outputs to train other AIs. This isn't just boring legal stuff. This is a massive red flag. It creates a ton of risk for any developer or company that wants to build something serious on top of this. Okay, so setting the whole license issue aside for a second, let's talk about the model itself. How good is it really? Remember what Elon said? Our best model last year. That little phrase, last year, is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Let's see what that actually means in today's AI landscape. You have to understand, in the world of AI, a year isn't just a year. It's like dog years, but on steroids. It's an absolute eternity. The speed at which these things are improving is just mind-blowing. So a top model from late 2023, how does it actually perform against the new kids on the block today? And this chart really paints the picture. This is the Artificial Analysis Intelligence Index. It's basically a report card for how smart these AIs are. And look here, even xAI's newer model, the Grok 3 Mini, is trailing behind what OpenAI and Google have out there. Now, don't get me wrong, it's still a powerful model, but it's just not at the cutting edge anymore. The frontier has already pushed forward. Now, if we look at this chart, which sorts models into proprietary versus open weight, two things really jump out at you. First, notice where Grok is. It's listed as proprietary. That's because of that restrictive license we just talked about. And second, look at that open weight side. It is getting crowded with some seriously powerful models from places like Alibaba and DeepSeek. They're catching up fast to the big closed-off models. All right, so the license is restrictive and the performance isn't top tier anymore, but believe it or not, there's more. Beyond all that, there are some huge practical problems and a pretty messy history of controversy. First, let's just talk about the size. We're looking at a 500 gigabyte download. 500. To put that in perspective, that's like downloading a huge high-definition movie about 100 times. And it's split into 42 different files. For the average person or even a small team, that's just a non-starter. It's basically inaccessible. And hey, let's say you actually manage to download all that data. Well, you've just hit your next brick wall, the hardware. Forget about running this on your fancy gaming PC. To get Grok 1 to even wake up, you need a server rack with 8 top-of-the-line GPUs, and each one needs at least 40 gigs of VRAM. We're talking about a setup that costs a small fortune. So much for being accessible to indie developers or startups. Then we get to the let's call it personality of the model. Grok was famously trained with this sort of anti-woke edge, and it has led to some truly bizarre and pretty problematic outputs. The most famous one, of course, is when it just started calling itself Mecha Hitler. Yeah, you could imagine that was a fun day for the xAI PR team. But honestly, that's nothing compared to this. The most alarming thing has to be the huge privacy disaster. Forbes reported that a share button on Grok just published hundreds of thousands of private user chats online, and not just published them, made them searchable on Google without telling anyone. And we're not talking about harmless chats about the weather. This leak included instructions for making bombs and fentanyl. It leaked people's personal info, even passwords. It even generated a detailed plan to assassinate Elon Musk. It's just a shocking failure. So let's put this all together. The license isn't really open. The model isn't the smartest one out there anymore. It's a nightmare to download and run, and it comes with some seriously scary baggage. Which leads to the million-dollar question. Why on earth would they release it at all? While the answer isn't about generosity, it's all about strategy. This move basically carves out a strategic middle ground for xAI in the great AI race. You've got players like Meta and these powerhouse Chinese labs like DeepSeek who are going aggressively open weight. Then you have OpenAI, which keeps its absolute best stuff locked down tight. xAI is trying to have it both ways. They're releasing the model's weights to get developers excited and talking about them, but they're using that restrictive license to make sure they don't give away the farm, commercially speaking. And all of this really leaves us with a huge question about the future of AI. In this insanely competitive race, what does open even mean anymore? Is this the new playbook? A kind of controlled release that some are calling Openwashing, where you get the good PR of being open, but you keep all the real control and commercial value locked down. It's a fascinating and maybe a little cynical strategy. And it makes you wonder, in this new world, is open enough the best we can hope for?